barbecue waiting for you? I heard a rumor there might be a little bit of alcohol there. I was supposed to talk to you guys about what to do with people once they get to leadership, but I changed my mind. So, I want to talk about just how to deal with people in general. Not necessarily once they get to leadership, but how do you coach people? How do you inspire people? What is this whole people thing? What is this whole coaching thing? And I want to be really clear, this is 100% learned. I love the fact that our business doesn't require talent, doesn't require you to be super intelligent, doesn't require a certain background. You can learn it all, and especially when it comes to coaching. Like, I think I'm proof of that, because I learned it, and I wasn't exactly the most social person ever. For those of you guys who don't know, I was a classical clarinetist. I know. You're thinking classical clarinetist. Yeah. Yeah, that's a bit of a nerd. But no, I spent 12 to 16 hours a day in a little room with a little piano and a stand and a clarinet. And that was my life. So it wasn't exactly like I would see people. I was one of these guys who, like, if we're walking on the sidewalk and I saw somebody coming towards me, I'd go to the other side. It's like I didn't want to have to deal with the awkwardness of maybe he says hi to me. Or, you know what I mean? It's weird. And so you can imagine, this is like the opposite of sales, isn't it? So I learned anybody learn it. And I feel really fortunate in hindsight. I got to, the program that you're in right now, I got to do it twice. Which I know to you now doesn't sound very fun, right? Like, why the fuck would I want to do this twice, this whole field thing? But it was fortunate for me, because I ended up going through the program. I started the program and I did it in Atlanta, first national in Atlanta. I graduated, got some management, and later did it again, working with Justin. And those two times couldn't have been more different. And when I look back at it now, I really shouldn't have got promoted the first time that I went through the program. I definitely didn't deserve to get promoted. I ended up getting promoted because I had an amazing office. There were a bunch of awesome examples all around me. My manager was incredible. And there was just a ton of momentum. It was the #1 office in the country. Everything was going great. And so a lot of people got promoted. And I was definitely one of those guys that probably shouldn't have. It was a bit premature for me. And the way that I looked at dealing with people was just, it's embarrassing now, but to me it was just, I was extremely concerned about my problems and didn't really give a fuck about yours. I was my own favorite charity, and I didn't have a problem telling you that. I came in. I didn't come here to get friends. I came here because I need money, because I'm broke. I was $26,000 in debt when I started the business. So I just want to get back to zero. Really, I just wanted to be broke again. And I would have been so excited. And the way that I looked at the training program was so fucked up. And they drew out this thing, on a napkin, and I said, dude, blah 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 blah, and then you can, not have any money problems. I'm like, all right, sweet. So I didn't look at it like a training program. I didn't look at it like, okay, I'm going to learn things here that I'm going to need here. Does that make sense? I just looked at it like they're going to make me do all this bullshit here, and then I can make money. Does that make sense? So I'm going to do the bullshit. Fine. And then they threw out, this little thing, okay, you need 4 circles, and make 1 circle have a little baby circle, and then you're manager, right? And that was, that's how I just went through. So I'd start somebody, I'd start you, I'd be like, oh, geez, you got goals, that's awesome, let's get you ring the bell, boom, boom, boom. Oh, leadership, promoted. Woo, juice by you. Have a great life. cool. I'm gonna go get my other 3 circles now, all right? You just do what don't quit, okay? and please, I'll tell you what, why don't you do some work too? While I'm up there doing 3 more circles, why don't you get one of your own? Somebody's gotta have a big penis, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, I mean, I ended up getting, and we ended up building a group. And I didn't get how fucked up this was. I didn't get how much I fucked this up. until it came time for me to get to move. I was going to move from Atlanta to St. Louis, so my office was usually a really, really exciting thing. And I had 17 guys in the crew, and only 2 wanted to come with me. And I ended up having these 2 guys come with me, plus a girl. And the only reason she came, she had like just started. She was one of these real bubbly, like, oh, like, oh, right? So we opened up. I had such an incredible expansion crew. So I'll tell you about my expansion crew here. I had a really, really sweet man. His name's C-Lee. He's from South Korea. And so he came with me. The thing about C, somehow this guy got promoted. I think we actually did all of the sales for him. Do you know what I mean? Like, we jumped into his territory, rang the bell real quick, gave him the sales, then went back to our territory. Oh yeah, C, you did great today. We should promote him, right? Because I need to get that circle, right? And I don't think he'd ever done a sale. Honestly, I really don't think he'd ever done a sale. And I went to the field one day with him to try to fix him, to figure out what was going on. And this is how he would pitch. Ready? Knock on the door. Oh, hi sir. Hi sir. How are you? So sorry to bother you. Probably you don't want this. Not many people want this. But I showed you. Oh, you don't want it. I'm so sorry to bother you, right? And so nobody bought, obviously, right? So this first strong leg of my budding management career. And then I had this other guy, Steven Sanders, who was like the opposite of that. And this guy worked his eyes out. He worked so hard. But just no willingness to want to get good at working with people. He was like, he couldn't smile. He was like, had some sort of deficiency. It's like impossible. And he just in general had a bad attitude. So he knocked on the guy's door, like, hey, how's it going, man? Yeah? Cool, look, here's what everyone else is doing. Yeah, so what do you mean you don't want it? You're like the only one in the neighborhood, right? Like, you don't want it? What do you dumb? Anyway. So, if you raise somebody's blood pressure, they're not going to sign up for it, right? Yeah. And then, And then we had Rebecca, who she did a good job. So this is my team, and it wasn't until I got, as I said, I wasn't a great example. It wasn't until I got to management, and this was my crew, that I realized how bad they had done this. And now it's like kind of too late. Do you know what I mean? And it was really bad because, well, a few reasons it was bad. One was I started to realize, holy shit, like all these things I was supposed to learn, like have a great attitude, or I didn't learn them. And now I need them, Like, apparently you need those in management too, especially with my career. You can imagine how stressed out I am, right? For you guys. And so that was part of it. And I remember, being on the phone. This Justin, for whatever reason, he's in London at this time. He just starts calling me, talking to me for like 3-4 hours a day. And I really owe him everything for that. But I remember, these phone calls, it's so embarrassing now. Like, he'd call me up, he'd listen to me for 2 hours, I just like nag out. She's like full of excuses. Oh, well, C's never done a sale, and da-da-da-da-da. And I just, any excuse you can think of, I had it. I remember one day he said, Christoph, you should quit. Or go back through the program again. I'm like, well, he's like, all the things you were supposed to learn in the training program, you didn't. So, you're supposed to have a great attitude, you have shitty attitude. You're supposed to work hard, you're a lazy motherfucker. Because now I'm supposed to be a coach, right? Now I'm supposed to, you know, tell people, here's what we need to do. You know, I remember this one time, like, nobody was talking to enough people, and really what the issue in the office was work ethic, right? And so what the office needed me to do was roll in there and be like, oh, we gotta work hard, right? But I'm looking at the guys that were in the field with me, and they know that I didn't work hard when I was there. Do you know what I mean? So either I gotta be a bad coach and not give the advice that people need, or I gotta be a hypocrite. And neither of these were good. And you know, Justin ended up talking to me enough hours a day that we eventually got out of it and had a lot of success. And we're making a lot of money over here, but then I really started thinking about it, like, after we started having a ton of success, I started to think, you know, what if I could go back through this again? What if I could rewind time and go back and do everything the right way instead of the wrong way? How much better would my business be now? And I got the opportunity to do that. I mean, that's the main reason that, and you know, the opportunity to work and study with Justin was why I went over to GK to work with. And the second time through the program was completely different. You know, so you talk about you've learned today pretty much everything that you need to know to get somebody to leadership. Well, what do you do then? Well, the first thing is don't forget about them. Do you know what I mean? It takes so much effort and time and all this to get somebody to leadership. Why would you then forget about them once? You know, it's kind of like, it takes 9 months to have a baby. Would you then just throw out the baby? Oh. All that effort. You know? Maybe that wasn't the best thing. Oh, Jesus. Our game is really simple. It's not necessarily about how good you get. You do have to get really, really good. But what it's really about is how good can you get other people. And the more people you help, the more money you make. And that's just really it. You know, why is Justin as wealthy as he is? Well, he helped 100 people figure out how to make 100 grand. It's not that complex. And, you know, you go out as a vice president, you help somebody make $100,000, you can make an extra $30,000, $40,000. You know, that's fair. So that's our game. But we see, you know, people mess this up a lot, which is natural. But my goal today is just to go through some principles with you, some different areas. Now, hopefully we'll give you a better idea of how to coach people. So we're going to have some fun right now. Cool? So turn over your papers. One of these is for you to keep. And you can use it, make copies of it, and use it for your day of O's. You can do this for your interviews and have them pulled out, and I'll explain that a little bit later. One we're going to take right now. So, listen to the instructions. Ready? Alright, so you have a row right here. Row 1, it has 4. You have to pick the one adjective that most describes you. You have to pick one from every single one. Does this make sense? Yeah. So from row 1, I'm going to pick just one. From row 2, I'm going to pick just one. Get it? Okay, so go ahead and do it. If you can't decide if there's somebody here that's your friend or that's close with you or that knows you, ask them which one most applies. No, top and bottom. Every single row.
Bravo. Question.
Yeah.
Mover?
Yeah, a mover, creator, I move things. Things you move.
Tell you how many minutes I've got. Top, middle.
Every single one. That's how it works. Every single one. Guys, every single line has to have a mark. Every line has to have one mark.
What, even if you don't?
Kind of like that.
Impressed. It depends who you're dealing with. If you don't like the person, you're very that's how it is. If I don't like no one, then no. Everything about them pisses me off. So if I don't like, like that's the
What does this mean?
Alright, got it? Close? Close, close, close. Come on, man, you can do it. I believe These books above the line, I think you should read these books. They're the 6 most important books in my life for sure. And if you're in my office, they're required reading. If you're not in my office, they're highly recommended reading. And then there's two others below that's really, really good. So read about it in that book. Well, I'm going to give you the synopsis here. Essentially, what's the idea? The idea is that not everybody can be treated exactly the same. Does this make sense? People are sort of different from each other, and if everybody could be coached exactly the same, if everybody could be treated exactly the same, then we would just, write like a script and then give it to you, and then everyone would live happily ever after, right? What do I mean by that? Well, some people, for instance, Steven here. If I tell Steven, hey, you know what, you suck, you should just quit, you're never going to be able to get this. You know what he's going to do? He's going to go out and he's going to ring the bell like 8 times. Right? So you're really pissed off, that's going to motivate him. Does that make sense? There's other people that if you say that to, they're going to be like, they're going to start crying. Okay? So this is important once you start, right? Some of you are like, that's easy. This is important once you start living with people. So if you score, typically people will have one dominant and then one like secondary dominant characteristic. Cool? again, that's not always the rule, but typically people will have, you know, like they'll score like a 15 here, a 10 here, and this will be like 3, 2. Does that make sense? So let's go through the first column, which has an S there, that's called sanguine. Now, you can use, this is really effective also, sanguine. 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 Like penguin. Alright, so use this with your interviews. In my office, we have all the secondary interviews take this before they go to the field. So if you have an observation, you can open up the personality test and you see a lot about them. If you don't, just have your observation. That's one pass that they can do whilst you're going out. It'd be really, really fun. But to me, this would tell you more about them than even the CV breakdown will, the resume breakdown. What's a sanguine? Sanguine's motivated by fun. You know? Sanguines are the life of the party. They're super excited. The other people, you know, you go to the party, they're like dancing on the table. Ooh, yeah, they they also lose their keys like every 2 days. You know what I mean? They can't find their wallet. Their license is gone. You know, they're distracted. They're all over the place. But they have a lot of fun, right? Anybody know one of these? Yeah, raise your hand if you're sanguine. Anybody score sanguine here? Yeah? Yeah, Picasso, I knew you were saying. Okay, so what's going to motivate these people? Well, what's going to motivate these people is like a really, really fun environment. Does that make sense? So if I got this person on an interview, for instance, we're going to have a blast game. Sure, I'll still show the training program and all that, but I don't even need to focus on it. They're just looking for a place to have fun. Does that make sense? So that is the second. So the positive of that, they're typically really good. You know, typically they pick up the sales really, really quickly, right? Because they're so like whatever. But it's all personality based. So a lot of times these people on your crew, they'll have a difficult time teaching other people like how to do sales, or teaching other people, you know, how to get promoted because they're just kind of all over the place. Does that make sense? So this person you have to work a lot with, like, okay, let's focus, right? Let's have a plan. 1, 2, focus, So, but to be very, very excited, right? Which is super positive. And you'll love having these people on your team because they're really, really just, you know, flare everything up for you. They're really, really excited, right? Okay, so this is the same. So when I'm setting goals with this person, you know, it's a good idea when you set a goal with guys that when they hit it, you know, you get some sort of reward, right? So what kind of rewards would like a sanguine be excited about? Yeah, we're going out, we're going to go it's amazing, it's so much fun, you know? Something like that. They're going to be excited about, these guys are excited about atmosphere. These guys are excited about crew night, right? These are the sorts of things that I would use to motivate sanguine. Well, I gotta understand that the weaknesses are going to be organization, forgetfulness, focus. And so we're going to have to put a lot of structure in their program because they're not going to do it on their own. Does this make sense? Gotcha. Okay, cool. Second. Next up, we have cleric. Who's cleric? Most of you are cleric, huh? Yeah, choleric.
Yeah, it's me.
Choleric, yeah. All right, what's a choleric?
What is it? What am I?
You're choleric, yeah. Cholerics are like your natural born leader. They're your...
Oh, yeah.
They're your typical personality when you think of like a type, people, you heard the expression type A personality. That's very much a choleric. Cholerics have a very high probability of becoming like CEOs, that sort of thing. Most of your CEOs are choleric. They're driven, they're competitive, super competitive, right? So like I said with Steven, he's probably super competitive, he's choleric. They want to get things done, they want results, they want it now. Cool? And so this is good on all those sides. The weaknesses are they piss people off. Cool? They're so task oriented and they're so driven. They can be just too blunt. You know, and they can really hurt people's feelings without meaning to. Do you know what I mean? They can make people angry without meaning to, because they're just too blunt. Do you know what I mean? Like, So somebody on their crew will come up to them and maybe they'll be stressed out and they'll be, oh, you know, I'm really having a hard time getting this. And then, yeah, that's probably because you're a fucking idiot.
There you go.
They can be domineering. They can, you know, lord things over other people. They can be just kind of too strong. So with cholerics, what's going to work? Well, they like challenges. Okay? They like challenges. They're hyper competitive. So anything, you know, if I'm like, well, yeah, you know, man, you're probably doing okay, but you're not ever going to be as good as Steve. Let's just be honest. He rings a bell every day. You can't keep your attitude to success. Don't worry about it. Yeah? You're out of your mind. So challenge them. Get them in competitions with other people. They don't even care about money. They just care about winning. Does this make sense? They just want to fucking win. That's all they want to do, right? And they hate losing more than they love winning. Does this make sense? So this is just get these people in a competition. Yeah.
You know me so well.
I joke sometimes with these guys back here. I didn't think, you know, Justin's definitely clear. I didn't think he would ever stop doing this just because, like, he's so competitive that anytime he looks over, he's like, oh, well, I gotta do more than that. Let's go, you know? And so, competitions will motivate them. If I'm setting goals with them, stuff to get them ahead as rewards will be really exciting. So, hey, buddy, you know what? Let's set this goal, whatever, production-wise or whatever. If you hit it, then at the end of the week, tell you what I'm doing. Tell you a conference call, one-on-one with Jack Bertog. We've got a full hour of his time to go through whatever you want to go through to get you ahead and get you beating everybody else. Does this make sense? Or maybe we go play a competitive sport, right? Do this, we can do basketball, one-on-one, my place, as long as you want to go, right? So, Jack's laughing. You know this is true, right? No. All right. Any questions about Blair? No. Cool. You're going to find a lot of these people in our industry just because typically they kind of gravitate towards things that are competitive or places where they can move ahead. They're more likely to be in sales because that's, you know, something super competitive in terms of industry. Got it? Okay. Number 3, melancholy. These are your accountants. Cool. If your accountant is not melancholy, you need to get a new accountant. These people are super organized. They're meticulous. They're, you know, I won't hire an administrator unless she's melancholy. And one thing you notice about melancholy people, is anybody here melancholy? Yeah? No. Okay. A little bit. Melancholy, you have a friend where he's got his desk, and if you move like one thing, they like freak out. You know this person? My board marker always faces due southwest. This is the end of the world. This person, like, for fun, they clean the house. You know, you know what I mean? For fun, everything's got to be absolutely. They'll walk in. You'll clean up your house. They'll come home and be like, this place is disgusting. Yeah? These people are super meticulous. All right, these guys are really detail-oriented, okay? So they're really analytical, really detail-oriented. This is a person, you know, if I'm with this program in observation, this person in observation, I'm going to spend a lot of time, you know, going through the points of the training program. Does that make sense? These are the guys that on their day of, oh, we're going to ask you about, you know, well, how do we deal with the conversion rate, you know, when we open up businesses in South Africa, you know? What about that? What about the sales tax in Peru, you know? So they want all the details, they want all the specifics of how we're gonna get that. Okay? Negatives. They again are more task-oriented than they are people-oriented. Okay? You got your sanguine, super people person, people-oriented. Choleric, more task-oriented. And your melancholies are more task-oriented. So they can come across as arrogant, as rude, you know, just kind of negative, what you can see on here. Skeptical, kind of a loner a little bit. So I'm going to have to work with this person a lot on people skills. Okay? I'm going to have to work with this person a lot on, hey, let's make people feel better. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to have to work on this person a lot to not get bogged down in the details. Does that make sense? So when this person teaches sales, they'll probably spend like 3 hours on Sales Portal going through the differences in pricing. Yeah. You know, by the end of the week, what? So those are the things that we're going to have to work on there. Juice? Juice. All right, and then finally we have the phlegmatic. Last category. These people are also very much people persons. Okay? Key flag. Yeah. Reasonable. Okay, so the phlegmatic, they just want everything, everybody get along, man. That's it. You know, they want no conflict. No conflict. You know the person that like won't ever voice their views just because they want to have no conflict? You have this friend, you know what I mean? Or maybe you date this person, they never say anything, and then one day they just absolutely explode, right? Because they never told you any like 58,000 things that were bothering them, right? Okay. What? They're these people are very tolerant, okay? They're very, very diplomatic. They're great listeners. You can sit down with these people and they will listen to you all night long. You'll feel fantastic. Their thing is like hanging out with people and everything being juicy and cool and sweet and peaceful, and we're all good. Does that make sense? Okay? That's the positives, right? The negatives are they can be pretty lazy, okay? They don't like pushing themselves. They just, they're procrastinators. You know, if they don't have to deal with it, they won't deal with it. And they don't really ever voice any of their concerns because they just kind of want to hang out, you know? Can we just sing Kumbaya? So what I got to do with this person, I got to really structure goals with this person so that we're incrementally getting better every single week, because they're definitely not going to do it on their own. Okay? Whereas the choleric's probably going to show up, so already got his goals written out, already how he's going to destroy everybody else this week. Well, the phlegmatic's never going to write anything down. Why would I have to, man? I'm good, we're chilling, right? So I got to do a lot of things, a lot of structure in order to push him, okay? And again, when we set goals and we set up rewards, anything that involves like hanging out with people, not necessarily party, but just like, hey, we're gonna, if you get this done, me and you and three or four of us, we're all gonna go to the movies. Oh, that'd be awesome. We're just gonna hang out. We're gonna sit around on beanbags and play guitar, whatever. That's what they're really excited about. Any questions? Okay, so these are your personality types. Now, you don't wanna tell a phlegmatic that he sucks. And he's never going to get it, and he should quit, because he will. He'll just, you're probably right, it's just informing. I want to be good at this, you're right, You don't want to tell them, that. Does that make sense? We got to get them out all the other weeks. We got to challenge the choleric, and we're going to come with the same. Juice? Yes. So, I want to recognize, what kind of people I'm working with, the sooner that I can identify kind of their personalities, and you're already probably thinking in your head, okay, well, my mom's this one, my dad's this one, my best friend's this one, right? Are you? Yeah. Okay. So I want to kind of identify what that is, and the goal is not to be, one or the other. The goal is that eventually you can learn how to work with all four types of these people. Does that make sense? Eventually you know exactly what's going to work for each person, because, it's like if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. You heard of this? Yeah? So like what's going to work for a choleric is definitely not going to work for a phlegmatic.
So if you are spread evenly across, is that a good thing?
If you spread evenly across, yeah, that would be a good thing, because it's going to be easy for you to relate with each person outside. Yeah. If you're highly, on one or the other, which most people are going to be, that's great. You're going to have no problem relating to other people in your area, but you got to start to understand how to relate to people in every area. Yes? Yes. Yes. So this is part of coaching people. The next part more or less a continuum here. And I'm going to give you two extremes. I think every person kind of falls in this line, but I'm going to give you two extremes. So one extreme is, let's say, like a fascist. Okay? A dictatorial ruler, overconfident, arrogant. You know, people may do what he says, but they won't necessarily respect him. Have you met this person before? Yeah. Just very much like overconfident, arrogant, into themselves. We're going to do it. Okay. And then on the other side, you have like the players coach or the pushover. You know, the guy that everybody loves, you know, but no one really respects him because he won't really ever do anything. Does that make sense? You met people before, they just let everybody run all over them? Yeah. Right? But in general, like, they're liked by everybody, but they, you know, they don't have a, you know, it's fine. So these are kind of the two. These are the two extremes, okay? And I think, you know, if this is the middle, I think that where we want to get people to eventually is probably just right over here. Okay? A little bit closer to the confident guy than the other, but everybody that I've ever worked with, you know, is either too far here or too far here. Okay? And so with these people, we've got to get them more confident. We've got to build their confidence. We've got to show them that we believe in them, that they should believe in themselves. The advantage that these people have, especially the farther left they are, is people naturally like them, and no one will ever think that they have like ulterior motives. Does that make sense? They're very, very trustworthy, that sort of thing. And so with this person, I got to constantly be building them, and I got to constantly be showing them, hey, look, you can do more, you can achieve more, and you're already so good at these many things. Okay? So I've really got to be a good finder. Here. I need to find, you know, 3 or 4 things a day that I think this person's doing great at, I think this person's really good at, and tell them this and remind them this, because over time I've got to build their confidence. Okay? I've also got to get them, you know, to have some thick skin. Okay? I've got to get them to the point where they can take criticism without it destroying their confidence. Okay? And this isn't something we can teach in 5 minutes. This is, you know, very much an art. Because I want to build their confidence by showing that they can do things. Okay? Well, I also want to have some criticism in there so that over time they learn that they can take criticism without killing confidence. Does this make sense? Okay. This person's not necessarily easy to work with. The person that's too far here, well, it's simple. We got to teach this person how to be relatable. We got to break them down a little bit, not in necessarily like a mean way. But we really got to show them, look, this is where you're at, this is where you need to be, and there's a pretty big gap in between these two. Does that make sense? We got to constantly show them examples of other people that are ahead of them or doing things the right way, because this person's just automatically going to be sure that everything, the way that they do it is right. Does this make sense? Okay. Typically, if you're too far over here, they're probably going to be clear. Typically, if you're too far over here, they're probably going to be like, okay? So this is where I want people to be, which is what? Confident, but willing to take criticism. Relatable, willing to listen to people, find the good in people, be able to sit down with people and win them over, have a sincere heart. Think about the type of leader that you'd be excited about following to another city or another country or another universe. Like, what does that person look like? That's probably what you imagine. Does this make sense? Yes. Okay. So that's kind of like the backdrop of what I'm trying to assess when I start to work with a person is where do they fall here and what's in general a personality. Okay. Next step, you have to build a relationship with people if you're going to ever coach them. Okay. And this, I want to be clear, like. This can't be like fake. Do you know what I mean? Like this has to like come like from your heart. Do you know what I mean? It's got to be like real. It's got to be sincere. It's got to be genuine. You know, do I go out with people with the objective of building a better relationship with them? Sure, but it's not like, oh, hey, we're gonna go out and I'm gonna have a good relationship with you. I gotta be actually interested in getting to know you. I gotta be actually interested in wanting to hear your story. I gotta be actually interested in what you gotta say. And I gotta have, you know, a big heart that wants to help other people get better. Does that make sense? So it's not a manipulative thing. It's not like, you know, what do you guys call it in the field? You got some acronym for it. Build a personal relationship. You know, I almost hate that term because it sounds like, oh, this is like a trick or something. Do you know what I mean? It sounds like, oh, I got CPR to like I came in there and I hit him in the back of the head. He didn't even notice, you know, like a CPR. It can't be like that, okay? You gotta really want to get to know people, and you should. You should. In our business, you know, if you would you ever marry somebody after the first date? Why? Oh, shit, right? All right. Well, you're gonna own a business now. He's probably already been married 6 times, right? Doesn't remember. If you're gonna, you know, if you do this thing right, you're not gonna just have, you know, teammates. You're gonna have like business partners. And when you're a business partner with somebody, I mean, that is the kind of marriage. Your money's, things, all kinds of things are going to be mixed together. Would you want to go into a business with somebody you didn't know or didn't trust? Okay. Well, I want to know at least as much about my business partners as I know about, you know, somebody I want to engage. Does that make sense? Okay. So how do we build a relationship? Well, why do we want to build a relationship? Well, one is what I just went through, but two is how much I can push a person is directly connected to how strong a relationship is. Does that make sense? So why is it that, for instance, your parents can really, really push you and criticize you, but you still love them, right? Why? Because they spent a ton of time building a relationship with you as a result of, you know, how you guys grew up, right? Well, if I don't know you, and then I start talking to you, and then I start telling you you're a piece of shit, you need to work harder, or you whatever, I'm giving you all this criticism, how are you going to feel?
Eat my shit.
Huh? How you going to feel about me? Who's this motherfucker? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't even matter if my advice is correct. It's irrelevant. You won't listen to me unless we have some sort of relationship. You know that I care, okay? I read this one, what did I say in the book? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You heard this? Okay, that's true. Okay? So how do we build a relationship? Well, one is just time. Okay? And it's the amount of hours you spend with the person outside of the office. Okay? And it's got to be outside of the office. You know, relationships can't really count on just inside the office. Build relationships. That's too much of it. It's got to be outside the office, and we have to listen. Okay, and if you find that you don't, that you need to work on this area a lot, the first book you should read in there is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Okay, this talks about this a great deal. But when we go on with people too, it's what do we do with them? Okay, and there's something called a conversation. You might have heard this word. Yeah, it's a lost art. Okay, and especially with the way our society is going. It's just not something people really do anymore. And what I mean is this. So let's say I'm talking to Abel and we're in a conversation, right? He's talking, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm not actually listening. I'm looking at him, I'm nodding, sure. But what am I thinking in my head? When is he going to shut up so I can say what I want to say, right? And then so he gets done with this sentence and I'm like, well, what I think is da-da-da-da, right? And what is he thinking while I'm talking? When is he going to shut up so I get to say what I want to say? Does this make sense? And you see this all the time. I'll watch groups of conversations. It's like people are, God will be talking and it's like, everybody else is like, when do I get to talk? Do you know what I mean? And it's so weird that their goal is just, I want to talk, and their goal is never, I want to listen. Well, when I sit down with a person, my goal is I want to listen. That's it. And the easiest way to do this is ask a bunch of questions. Okay? See how much, and you know, it's funny, I read this book before I was in the program. Well, I really wanted to get good at this because I noticed that I really need to work on my people skills. And so I would ask people out to lunch, and I would just see if I could go the entire lunch only asking questions. Does that make sense? With no actual statements. And so here's some questions I got really good at. Ready? Oh, really? Why is that? Tell me more about that. How did you end up there? What happened next? Oh, I remember one time I took this guy out for lunch. I barely knew him. I was working at a restaurant, but I knew him from the restaurant. Hey man, we're going out for lunch. And my goal was to see how long we could go. You know, just with me saying, really? Why is that? Oh, how'd you end up there? Right? And so I only had those 2 lines. We ended up having lunch for 4 hours. 4 hours. And it's so funny because at the end of it, he's like, well, man, I got to go to work. It's been so great talking to you. I have no idea. You're such a good conversationalist, you know? And I was just thinking, like, all I did was ask questions, right? Because what do people want to talk about? Right. And I honestly think, you know, we have a whole industry that's built to fill this need. It's called psychology. Yeah? And have you ever been to a psychologist? It's really, really funny. What do they do? Tell me more about that. They write, right? No, what's right? Really? Why is that? Right? What happened after that, right? And why? What need did they fulfill? They fulfill people's need to talk about themselves. Does that make sense? And you know, I think that most people I've ever met, really they just want somebody who's willing to listen to their story. And probably they've never actually had, even their girlfriend or their boyfriend's never actually just sat down and just said, I want to listen, I want to start to finish. What's your story? What motivates you? What's been great in your life? What's been tragic in your life? When have you cried? When have you smiled? When have you laughed? And I love doing this with newer guys that I meet because when that's my goal, to go sit down with this guy and find out everything about him. Every single time so far that I've done this, there's always a time in the story where I'm like, sad for this person or emotional for this person or really, really want to see them, you know, get out of whatever experience you're talking about. There's always points in the story where I'm like, man, that's really cool, that's exciting, we're laughing about it. There's always points in the story where, you know, I learned something that I didn't know about before because he was into something that I didn't know. And every single time by the end of it, I found myself sitting there saying, feeling, man, I want to see this guy win. I want to see this guy get what he wants. I can't wait, you know, after hearing his whole story, you get wrapped up into it, and now you can't help but want to serve this guy and help this guy, and that's the right attitude to have with your team. Cheers? Cheers. So go out to, you know, your goal with conversations shouldn't be to go out there and I'm just going to, you know, vomit all over you. We see this a lot, you know? Johnny, you know, new leader sitting over there with retrained day one. You know, it's just a machine gun. And that's not motivating. Yes? Yes? So that's how to have a conversation. And then there needs to be a lot of that. It needs to be sincere. You should ask questions. You should wonder. Okay? Next thing on relationships. You're going to fuck up. What do you do when you fuck up? Own it. Apologize. Yeah. I mean, have you guys ever seen somebody where they screwed up, they did something, but then they wouldn't admit it, or they tried to blame it on somebody else? How'd you feel about that person? You want to hit him? Says the cleric. Right? Yeah, well, what about when a person says, hey man, listen, I'm going to talk to you, like, I screwed that up. I'm sorry. I'll change it, I'll do better. How you feel now? Respect that. You want to work with this person, right? And so nobody is ever right all the time. In our businesses and training program, the reason we have to train in the training program is because here's where you need to be and here's where you are now. And in the process of getting from here to here, you're gonna mess up. It's inevitable. You're not perfect right now. If you were, you'd already be, you'd already be promoted. Yes? Yes. Okay, so that's relationship. So the stronger relationship I have, the more I can push a person. So again, this comes down to like, maybe the person's messing up a whole lot, but I can't really scream, I can't really go super intense. You know, can you imagine if on your first day retrain, you know, your trainer was like cutting you down and criticizing you and really pushing you on your first day? How'd you feel? Yeah, would you like that person? Probably not. But if you have a super strong relationship with somebody, then you can push them a lot. And we see a lot of people, you know, your managers push you. That's their job, right? And what I see happen a lot is people watch their managers have these conversations where they're really, really pushing people and they copy that part. But then what they don't copy are the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours that your manager has spent getting to know people, learning about people, develop a relationship with people. Does that make sense? Yes, if you're only going to copy one, copy the relationship part. Choose?
Yes.
Okay. Next part. Get rid of the word I. Cool? Get rid of the word my. In one of those books, I forget which one, it talks about go for an entire day and count how many times you say the letter I. And then go through another day and count how many times you say the word we or our. Okay? Why? You know, I'm definitely on Justin's crew, obviously, but he never talks about it like that. Do you know what I mean? He's never said, well, my team or my crew. Do you know what he says? Hey, what are we going to do with our crew? What do we do with our team? Cool? What's the plan for our crew? What's the plan for our team? It's always been we. It's always been us. It's always been our. Okay? Nobody started in the company because you wanted to be on your leader's team. Did you? No? Do you want to be like, you know, it's like we talk about never introduce somebody. It's like, hey, this is my guy. Right? You heard this? Heard people do this? Like, hey, Mr. Manager, this is my new guy. This is my guy. Right? He doesn't have a name. He's just my guy. He's my circle. You know? So make it we. And you know, the way that I thought about it, the way I still think about it, when you're building a crew, when in this process, like this is our company. This is the beginning of something that's going to be beautiful. It's going to be amazing. It's a startup. I look at it like this is a startup company. I look at it like this is the time, man, when like, you remember when Bill Gates was like in the garage with like 4 other guys? Like that's how they start. That's how I look at this business. Oh, when you have a ton of advantages, because even though you're in the garage and you're building this small startup, you have the support of these huge clients. You have the support of all these people that are already successful. You have the support of this structure that's very, very big. But what you're doing right now is you're building your business, and people need to feel like they're building theirs. You get it? Yes. No one's going to be excited about building your company. Everyone will be excited about building our company. Get it?
Sure.
And the next part of that is, why would they be excited about building a company with me? So it's not you're on my team and I'm supposed to, you're supposed to do what I say. I look at it and I say, we're building this company together. Why do I deserve to be this person's business partner? And I'm constantly trying to prove that I am worthy of them going into business with. Does this make sense? I'm always fear of loss that one day they're going to show up and they're going to, maybe they won't say it, but they're going to feel, well, this person isn't helping me. This person is no value. This person isn't adding value. Okay? What is your job as a coach is to add value to the team. Does this make sense? Add value to their training program. Why are we here doing this meeting on a Saturday night? Because we want you to be excited about being in business with us. We want to find as many ways as possible all the time, every week, that we can add value to your life, your business. Because this is how we build a team together. Juice? Juice. Okay, so how are some ways that you can add value? Simple ones are put them in situations where they're going to get better. Okay? So if you're on your 3rd day, and I know that you went to law school, well, I can get you on the phone with Rizzy, and now all of a sudden you've met somebody that has something in common with one, but also you met somebody that's really, really good at the business, that's ringing the bell every day, that's building a team that's going to get promoted. Does that make sense? So the networking that you can get people, that you can arrange for people, is extremely valuable, primarily because most of the times people individually will not go out of their way to network. Okay? Especially new people are not going to be aggressive about, hey, who's doing really well at Atlanta? Can I get on the phone? But you can be aggressive about getting those people in front of you. Okay? Also in the office, I can add value by making sure that they're set up with the best people. Okay? And we're going to talk in a second about building alliances. Well, if I have certain relationships in the office, and because of those relationships, you get to have 3 great retraining days. Because of those relationships, you get to go on the best road trips. Because of those relationships, you can get a power retrain with the top guy in the deal. That's valuable. Agreed? Okay, so those are ways that I can add value. And I'm constantly looking at, especially when thinking leadership, what am I doing this week to help this person get better? I just 7 key areas. Okay? What areas, what of the 7 key areas, which ones am I better at than him? And how quickly can I bridge that gap? You know, if a person gets promoted to assistant management and they thank you for teaching them interviews, and they thank you for teaching them how to reach out, and they thank you for teaching them how to ring up, and thank you for being inspiring and coming to meet their family and all those things, then you've added a tremendous amount of value, and they're going to be excited to go with you wherever it is you go to open up your office. Because they're going to think, is my life better with him, or is it worse with him? Well, I taught him this. When I met him, I did shit. Now, you know, taught me all these things. I'm excited he's going to follow. Does that make sense? Add that with a close personal relationship. Everybody's going to do it. Everybody. You know, Justin moved 3,000 miles across the ocean. How many people came with him?
24 of us.
24 people. And you know how many he had to tell no? Like another 100? 200? Pretty much everybody, even the people that weren't, a bunch of people that were not in his organization, asking, hey, can I come with you? Can I come with you? Well, why? Because he's got personal relationships with people, but also because he's helped so many people in so many different ways that everybody thinks, my life is definitely better with him because look at all these ways that he's helped. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. So, add value in your team. Next up, don't be Napoleon. Well, just in general, don't be Napoleon. Napoleons walk around and they're like, well, part of it we already discussed. They're like, well, this is my team and my crew, and we're doing this, and da-da-da-da, and nobody gives a fuck, okay? Also, you see the other Napoleons that are like, you're mine, so don't talk to anybody else, right? And somebody else tries to come in, hey, no, it's okay. You choose, and do your thing, this is mine, okay? And this isn't, it's not good, it's not helping him, it's definitely not helping your relationships in the office, okay? The other thing Napoleon does is like, this guy's like, oh, well, Christoph, you know, I need to start learning about how to have a crew identity. You don't need a crew identity, you're on my crew, you know? Well, what about a crew breakfast? I already run, so you don't need to, right? This is not what you want. What you eventually want, how I always thought about it, is how long before I have competing crews on my crew? Does that make sense? How long before I have 3 competing teams, all with different team names, all with their own crew breakfast? Does that make sense? How long before they're competing with each other? Because now I win either way, right? So if I have people, you know, yes, I want to do crew identity. Yes, I want to have crew breakfast once a week. But I'm also going to encourage him as soon as possible to go have his own crew breakfast, to have his own team name, to do these things. Does that make sense? So give him that. Don't clip their wings. Just? All right, next thing. You got to be the example. And none of this works if you're not the example. And that's another huge reason why so many people want to follow Justin all over the world. Is because in every way that you can measure, in every way that matters, we talk about the 8 steps, we talk about pitch-based attitude, like he is the fucking example. So, you know, we talk about you're a leader now. Well, to be a leader, by definition, you need to be in the lead, right? And so what does that mean? Well, in every one of those key areas that we talked about, am I ahead of him or am I behind? Okay? And it's a really, really hypocritical situation when I'm here and I'm trying to give these guys, you know, advice, but then I'm not bringing it up. Does that make sense? Even if the advice I'm giving them is correct, what are they going to think? They're nice, they won't say it to you, but they're thinking in their head, well, I did more fucking sales than you today. Why are you teaching me? Does that make sense? Yeah? We know that one, huh? Okay, so this isn't all the key areas that need to be hit. I gotta be a pace setter, okay? I gotta be the high roller. You know, so many things in your life will get easier if you just high roll the office every day. Like, you know, the high roller usually gets promoted to manager. Everything in our business is easier if you're the high roller. Interviewing is easier, retraining is easier, building crews is easier, having people respect you is easier. You run the impact every day, so people automatically look up to you. Like if you high roll your office every single day for the next 24 weeks, it's impossible you don't get promoted. Like it's just you just show up and high roll, and most everything will take care of itself. And I've seen people get promoted this way. I saw this guy Simon in the UK. Like, he didn't even really learn the business. All he did was he did 2 more sales than everybody else every single day for, I forget how many days it was, like 100 days, and he had promoted. You know what I mean? Without doing anything else. Just because he's always going to get an observation. He's always going to be the guy who retrains people, right? He's always going to be looked up to just based on the sale. Okay? So I got to be the high roller. The rule on this is you want to teach the 5 steps, and you want to teach the impulse factors. Well, you want to show the 8 steps. Show the 8 steps. Be the 8 steps. When you are alone in the quiet moments, and you honestly assess how good was your attitude today, how good was my work ethic today, how good was my student mentality, are you happy with the answer? If we cloned you, and you had 20 of you, and that was your office, would you be excited about it? Well, there was a time in my program for sure where the answer would be no, don't do that. You know? Because if you did that, then that means everybody in the office would take an hour and a half lunch. You know? If you did that, it means everybody in my office, once they reached the bell, they wouldn't try anymore. Do you know what I mean? And like I said, I was a terrible example in a lot of ways when I was coming through the program first time. You know, some of it's really embarrassing, but I'll tell the story. So once I got good at the field, what you should do is keep pushing yourself every single day, right? And get amazingly good, right? But what I did instead, we were in Atlanta, and so what I would do instead is, you know, I had this big Volvo. It seated like 7 people or something, this huge Volvo station wagon, so what I had in the field, because I was so sexy. Clarinet player, Volvo, right? And so I dropped off my car ride, AK, juice, yeah? And then I would go to the park. Or I'd go to Starbucks, or I'd read a newspaper, I'd take a nap until like 6 o'clock. And at 6 o'clock, I'd drive to the field, you know, I'd knock on 15 doors, I'd ring the bell. And then, you know, I have my, you know, you guys keep your little tracking sheet with all the numbers. Yeah, I'd write down a bunch of numbers, I'd cross them off, you just fake, like a little fake red sheet, you know what I mean? Some of you are like, fuck, I did that, right? And then I'd come back to settle ups, you know, put down my stuff. Hey, how was your day, Christoph? Oh, Jack, man, you wouldn't believe it, dude. I really had to work hard for the belt today. Woo! 110 people I had to talk to today. You know what I mean? And I thought that I was taking a shortcut, you know? But there's no shortcut to a shortcut. The thing's already a shortcut. And all it did was, even though people weren't with me, on some level they knew, didn't they? Eventually, you're going to get found out, okay? Eventually, we will find out who you are. Eventually, your people will find out who you are. There is no escaping it. And people can tell the difference between a guy who's putting in 100% and the difference between a guy who's faking. People can tell the difference between a guy with an unbelievable, unbreakable attitude and the guy that loses his attitude, you know, after 15 rounds. They can tell. And when they do find you out, what are they going to find? And, you know, people ask me a lot, oh, how'd you get to regional so fast and this and this? Well, it really is not that complex. For 14 months, every single night, I could look in the mirror and honestly say, there's no fucking way anybody had a better attitude than me today. It's just impossible. It's just whole country, whole world. Everybody is doing sale. Doesn't matter. I fucking unbreakable. No way. Just no way anybody outworked me today. Impossible. I'm beyond exhausted. And there's no fucking way there's anybody out there who'll ask more questions than me. There just isn't. And if you can honestly say that to yourself, you know, for a year, then you'll be a regional consultant. I mean, I don't know how you can do that and not have at least 200 guys on your team. Every time I've seen anybody do that, they get promoted. So when I was there, when you're there, would you be excited if you got cloned 20 times? Oh, you know, at that point, I'd be like, I'd be excited if my clones were 20% of me, we'd still fucking rule the earth. Do you know what I mean? Because at that point, like, you just, let's go. So that's where you got to be. Next thing is you teach people by showing them. You don't teach people by telling. Yeah. Especially in our business, you know, how did you learn how to do sales? Did we just throw you out by yourself? Hey, here's the neighborhood. Hey, here's Walmart. Is that how it worked? What'd you do? For 3 days, what'd you do? Retrain, right? You did it with people, and the pattern was pretty simple, right? So step 1 was you would watch them do something, right? Step 2 was you guys would kind of do it together, okay? And step 3 is he or she would watch you, right? same way that you're going to learn 7 key areas. Okay? So for me to teach a guy how to do days in a row from behind the desk is going to take months and months and months and months. Or I can take him out for 3 or 4 days. Day 1, hey, come with me. You know, we're going to take out this observation. It's going to go through. You're going to watch. Cool. You're going to be with me all day, taking notes, whatever. Day 2, you know, let's kind of do it together a little bit. You take the lead. I'll step in when I need to, and then we'll go over at the end of the night. And then day 3, I'm going to watch you take out one, and then we have. Then we're going to go through at the end of the night what I think you need to change. How effective is that? Yeah. So that's the quickest way to duplicate yourself. Okay. And as soon as you get this, like this is when your team starts growing by multiplication, right? So I look at how many days are going out in my crew every single week. Well, if I'm the only one who knows how to do odds, or I'm the only one who knows how to ring the bell, then the most I can grow is I can take out 6 odds this week. But if there's 3 of us, then we can take out 18. If only half of them start, if only a third of them start, that's a new person in my crew every single day. Is that exciting? Yeah, that's exciting. Okay, so that's how we teach it. Another way to look at this is, you guys seen like Candid Camera or any of those hidden camera TV shows? Yeah? Okay, well what if I told you, hey Grace, the last day that you were in the field, you didn't know this, but I had a hidden camera crew watching you all day long, from when you woke up to when you went to bed. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that tape and we're going to show it to all the reps in the country every week. And because we're sure that that's the right example. Would you be excited if that was the case? Or would you be like, oh. Right? What would we see on the video camera, right? You'll hear this expression in our company a lot, which is, what do you do when nobody's watching? And that is so important, I can't stress how important it is. What do you do when nobody's watching? All right, next part, building alliances and utilizing other people. In most situations, I'm not going to be the one that's the best person in the office at every single key area, right? So instead of pretending to be, I'm going to get them around the people that are, okay? So if I'm not great at building a crew yet, but you know this guy over here has started 4 people in the last week, I'm going to be honest, okay? And I'm going to say, hey, look, you're working on observations, I'm working on observations as well. Why don't we go together and learn from him? Or if I'm not ringing the bell every day, or I'm not the high roller, I'm not going to pretend to be the high roller. Even if I'm ringing the bell every day, but I'm not the high roller, I'm going to say, hey bro, Anthony's the high roller, you know, he's been crushing both of us. I really want to get better at this, you want to get better at this. Let's go see if we can get a sit down with him tonight and go through what we got to do to get to this level. Does that make sense? Now, if you're that person, aren't you excited? Are we adding value? Yeah, 100%. And as long as I'm getting them around all the right people, there's another benefit of this, which is it's going to keep them away from the wrong people. Okay? And in every office, most offices, there's a great group that's doing things the right way, and then there's just a completely full of shit group that is doing everything the wrong way. And I don't really want my guys around them a ton, but the right way to do that isn't like, hey, don't talk to those people. They're shit. Do you know what I mean? That's not really going to really be productive. The right way to do that is to get them around the right group. Okay? And if you build alliances the right way, you know, when I was in the field, what I set up for retraining was I found 2 of the other high rollers in the office, and we just made a deal. And I said, hey, look, let's make a deal. I'll do all your secondary retrains, you do all my secondary retrains. Cool? I'll make sure I'll go out with them. They're going to have the best day ever. I'm going to talk about you like you're a god. They're going to be super excited they're on your crew. I'm going to put half my sales every single time, at least, making sure they'll ring the bell in their name, so they're going to make money. Let's do that for each other, right? And so we had this little triangle that all 3 of us would each take turns, and that would be the 3 days of retraining, and it would be us 3. And so how fast do you think that we started to grow once we had that arrangement? Does that make sense? But, and this comes to another part, you got to collect favors. Do as many favors for as many people as humanly possible. You have no idea how eventually, it might be years from now, but eventually this will come back to help you in an extremely positive way. Not that you should do it because you're expecting something in return. You should do it for the right reasons, but if you do this correctly, you'll be amazed over the course of years how many situations come back to help you out because you got on good terms with somebody because you did favors for people. So in general, I would never turn that favor. So 3 great retrainers, you can do the same thing with road trips, right? You say, hey, well look, I'm going to run road trips, you're going to run road trips, we're both good at running road trips. Let's do this. If you give me a distributor, right? You give me a new guy. Oh, sorry, we're not called distributors anymore. What are they? Account executives. If you give me your account executives, they go out on a road trip with me, they're going to do amazing. They're going to see an awesome example. I'm going to almost guarantee you that every single one of them is going to come back and they're going to get promoted to leadership. They're going to hit the leadership criteria while they're out. If you give me a leader to go on a road trip with, I promise you by the end of that trip, that leader will know how to run a road trip so they can do on the road. Will you do the same for me? Right? Well, now I'm looking at it and saying, how many road trips every week are out in my business? The more the better, right? And this way I can have a road trip out in my business every single week. Juice?
Juice.
Okay. You know, those are the main points that I got, guys. The last one is just continue to dream big. The guy that trained me, my leader, was I was personally recruited to the business by this girl, Karen, but she was a distributor at the time, an account executive at the time, and so her trainer kind of became my leader. And this guy was like an awful example of the business, but what he did really, really well, what he did do right, was he dreamed of it. So he'd pick me up every Sunday, and we would drive around town, here, this town, Murfreesboro, and all the suburbs here, and he'd take me out on Sunday, because you guys know gated communities? Yeah? We would go to all the gated communities, because usually on Sunday they keep your gates open all day, and so visitors can come in and drive around, and we just go see these houses. And we'd just be like, you know, oh, Christoph, look at that house. I've never seen houses like this, right? Grew up pretty poor. And so I'm like, unbelievable, you know, these houses, be like, one day, we can have it. We can do that. One day we'll go open up Italy, we'll have a house like that. We can have a house next to each other. We do barbecues and shit together. It would be amazing. You know, we go by, we see these supercars parked outside, and like, oh, what are you going to drive? The Ferrari or the Corvette or the Rolls? Which one are you? Which one's going to be your pick, you know? And there's so many times that I couldn't, it took a lot of that before I could ever eventually believe, you know, that I could get those things. And the way, have you guys ever seen that movie, The Secret?
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah. Well, Gavin talked about his vision board, which reminded me of that movie. Before you can get those things, you know, you gotta surround yourself with those things. You gotta think about those things. You gotta imagine yourself, you know, in those things. And having a huge dream is such a big part of the game. And the way I saw this in a book, it's actually in one of those top 6 books. It's talking about how everybody's going to have obstacles. And if your dream is really small, here, then if you have an obstacle, can you see your dream? No. Well, if your dream's gigantic, and you have an obstacle, does it seem like a big deal anymore?
No.
Not at all. And, I mean, in the context of what you can achieve here, what you have to put in for what you can get out, it's the best deal. I can't even, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. The work that you have to put in here compared to what you can get. And, you know, we talk about, I love the 8 steps. My favorite one's number 7. Because it talks about this. What's your dream? What is your dream? What do you want? Why are you here? Anybody? Retire mom?
Make more like our
Yeah? Make more than your girlfriend, I like that. Yeah?
Put my little sister through college.
Little sister through college? What else?
Build well.
Build well? What else?
Be a billionaire.
Okay. There we go. All right, so I mean we have different things, right? And I think it's your responsibility to get a big dream. So one's money, right? How many people want to make money?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah? That's okay. It's not bad. It's not negative. You know. It's good. You know. Money can't buy you happiness, but it definitely fucking helps. You know? Definitely helps. How many problems would go away if you had a big pile of money? Most of them, right? And so what are you going to do with the money?
Travel.
Huh?
Travel.
Travel? Where are we going to go?
Everywhere I've never been.
Everywhere. Travel. Who wants to travel the world? Cool? All right, what else? What else do we do with money? Huh? Get out of debt, okay? Anybody enjoy having debt? No? Okay, so we can kind of get rid of that thing, take care of it, yeah? Okay, what else do we do with money? Gonna give back, okay? So you may got a cause or a family member that they care a lot about that maybe some money would help things out, okay? What else? Pay for your sister's wedding? I like that. That's gorgeous. That's beautiful. Do that. Go do that. What else? Invest? You got all these responsible people. Anybody gonna do fun stuff? Huh? Jet skis, yes! Jet skis. How about houses? Apartments?
I want to buy.
If money was no option, would you live somewhere different than you do now?
Yeah.
I think so. If money was no option, would you drive a different car than you drive now?
Yeah.
I want to buy an island.
Buy an island?
Buy an island.
I want to for your piano.
All right, so those are all the money things. That's awesome. They're phenomenal. But you need to have more. Cool? You need to have more than just money. Why? I wanted a blue Corvette. But if that was all I wanted, then when it got really, really hard, eventually one day I probably would have said, you know what, I lived my whole life without a blue Corvette. I'm probably fine with a blue Corvette. Do you know what I mean? But when you had the other goal, which is I want to retire my dad, is which one's harder to quit on? So I would find something that's very emotional, something family related or people related or something that's drawn close to your heart. That's what you got. That's what you got to get to, so that when things get tough, you have this huge dream that you can look back on, and you won't give up. You're less likely to give up on your family than you are on a car. Does that make sense? Cars are a lot of fun, though. I recommend you. All right, I'll leave you guys with a story. I had something. So I have a nephew. Anybody got nephews? Yeah, cool. That's cool being uncle, isn't it? Or, yeah. So I had a nephew, and my nephew, his name's Elijah, and he's at this kind of pivotal time in his life. He's lived through a lot of tragedies that he didn't really have any control over. And but he's 17 now. You remember being 17, right? He's kind of at this pivotal point where he's probably either going to go a bad way or a good way. You can't really tell. So I'm trying really, really hard to be super involved. And so last weekend I needed to go out to Knoxville to open a bunch of Walmarts, and so I called him up and said, hey, I convinced your mom to say you don't have to go to school tomorrow, so you're going to come with me. We're going to do a field trip, we're going to do a business trip. So we went out, bought him a suit, put him in a suit. He's looking really good, he's really excited. And then we went out there, and I took him along with me to all these Walmarts, and we talked to store managers, and it was really cool. I'm going to take notes and everything. It was a lot of fun. My grandfather was close there, so we stayed there for the night. And so we're hanging out, and my grandfather's got one of those, remember those old big screen TVs that were the size of a refrigerator? Yeah. And you couldn't look at them at an angle, you had to be right in the middle. Yeah. My grandfather's got one of these from 1948. And so Elijah's like, hey, Uncle Chris, can we watch a movie? Yeah, sure, go see what Grandpa's got. And so he starts going to the movies. And I go over there and start looking, and there's this movie in there. I'm like, we're watching this movie, Elijah. You guys seen the movie Miracle?
Yes.
Yeah, right? So we start watching this movie. Has anybody not seen this movie? Okay. So this movie, I'll give you the quick synopsis. Basically, what happened was there was this guy Herb Brooks, and he was a hockey player. And in 1960, he tried out for the Olympic hockey team, and they take 20 people on the team. And they were down. They started, have hundreds of people apply, audition for this, and then they cut and they cut and they cut and they cut until game day comes and they start the season. There's 20 left. Well, he was number 21. And if you look at the photo from 1960, they took the picture. He's in the team picture because they took the picture of the official team before they actually cut the last person. He was the last person cut before the game started. And that year, so he's the last person cut, one guy away. And that year, he's watching TV, watching the team that he almost made, but just not quite. And they win the Olympics. How devastating was it? Right. Devastating. But instead of complaining about it, instead of getting bitter about it, what he did was he worked really, really, really hard on becoming a great enough hockey player and a great enough coach that eventually, years later, in, when was it, Jack? 79 or something like that? 79, he won the spot to coach the U.S. Olympic team. Yeah. And so he's coaching this team. And 1960 to 1979, 1960 that was the last year America had won. It was the last time. And every year since, the Russians have won. And it wasn't really fair, because the way that it worked back then was the hockey team that they would get from the U.S. was just college kids, right? Just they'd take random college kids from different universities across the country. But they were playing against the Russians, and the Russians were like professionals. That was the professional group. They've been playing hockey with each other for, decades. And so it was really, really unevenly matched. It would be about like a little league team playing, a professional baseball team. But like it was that level of difference. And anyways, they go through it, and what ends up happening is he pushes the crew so hard that they end up beating the Russians in the end. And the week before, something like that, the Russians had beat the American All-Star team 6-0. That's how good they were. And a bunch of college kids went in and beat the Russians, won the Olympics, the biggest sports upset in the history of sports. And so we're watching this movie, but there's this real pivotal time in it where it's their first game overseas. They're playing like Czech Republic or something like that. And the hockey players are not focused, right? Because they're like, oh my God, we're overseas, super cool. And they're athletes, and all dudes who look around like all these Czech girls, can't wait till the game's over, we're gonna go out and party, meet some women, da 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 da. And so the game ends, and they lose, but he doesn't really care. The guys don't really care, and they start to go off the ice, and the coach comes on and he says, no, y'all didn't want to work during the game, you're gonna work now. And true story. So he starts making a run back and forth. I don't know if you guys see this in sports, right? Where they have to like go touch the bottom of that line, skate as fast as they can, go touch the bottom of that line, right? And back and forth. Suicide they call them, or gas, yeah, they call them different things, different sports. Just start doing this, blowing the whistle, and blowing the whistle, and then it gets like an hour passes, and then they shut off the lights to the place, but he keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. And eventually people start throwing up. And he's just blowing the whistle. He says, again, blowing the whistle, again, blowing the whistle, again. People were puking. Eventually the assistant manager's like, back off there, like, don't know what's going on. And it's just, again. And I'm watching this movie with my nephew, because I'm like, we're going to watch this movie, because you're going to learn what it means to be a fucking winner, because you're a Grizzard, and we're fucking winners. And I'm watching this movie, and I start to, get to this part, and start to, like, get, like, teary-eyed. And, Uncle Chris, what's wrong? And you know what it was? That's what I was seeing. I was seeing all the times in my life before I found this, where it wasn't working, where we just kept losing, where it was show up to work again and don't get ahead. Show up to work again and you're fucking broke. Show up to work again and you're still waking up in the middle of the night, stressed out because you're in fucking debt and nowhere to go. And then coming and finding this thing and then still losing. Going to the field and losing my attitude. And waking up and going to the field again and not reading the fucking bell. And waking up and going to the field again and not just coming back with excuses of why it's okay for me to be losing. And I remember the day that changed me. I was in London, I was working with Justin, and he had enough of it. I've been there for a few weeks, but I wasn't giving 100%. And he met me outside the office one morning, and he handed me he bought a plane ticket for me. He said, that's your ticket back to Nashville, get the fuck out of my life. Go home, pack your shit, leave. And he turns around and leaves. I'm like, whoa, Justin, what are you fucking talking about, man? I just moved up. Like, what are you talking about? And he said, you're a scam, Christoph. You're a fucking scam. You get up in front of all my guys here, and in front of the organization, you talk about you want to retire your dad. You talk about you want to help your family. You talk about all these things you're going to do. And then you go to the field and you can't keep your attitude for 6 fucking hours. It's a lie. I don't want anything to do with it. Fuck out of my life. And I walk away, and I'm just like, well, first I'm pissed off at him, you know what I mean? How dare he tell me my weaknesses, you know? And I just got so mad. I walked in the atmosphere, I grabbed a stack of applications, and I was walking the field, and I just got so angry, so tired of fucking losing. So tired of being fucking sick and tired. And how long am I going to go? How long am I going to let this happen? How much more of my life am I going to live and just get passed by, just losing again and again and again? How many more Christmases am I going to have trouble? How many more times am I going to stress out about money? How many more times is my sister going to fucking call me in tears because Elijah's sick again and we don't have money for a decent doctor? That's it. I'm done. It's not going to happen anymore. This is fucking it. This is the last fucking day I'm ever going to worry about money again. This is the last fucking day I'm going to accept this path for my life. And the most sales that I ever done on that campaign was 2. The bell was 3. How many think I did that? 5. Ring the bell every day since. And it changed everything. You know, it's crazy being back here in Nashville. This is where I started. Jack was the first manager I got really close with. When I met him, 26 grand in debt. Drove a car from 1988. Lived in a shared house with people I didn't know because the rent was $150 a month. Broke, down, out. Now it couldn't be more difficult. Well, that's great. Juiced by you, Christoph, you got your dream. Juiced by you, Hartbrooks, he got his. But what are you going to do? I can't care more about your life than you can, unfortunately. I can't do it for you. Justin can't do it for you. None of these guys can do it for you. You have to do it. And some of you are going to do it, and it's going to be amazing the next few years. And others of you aren't. It breaks my heart. But it's real. And it's okay. Because if you don't want it badly enough, guys, we don't want you to have it. Is it going to be hard? I sure as fuck hope so. It's fucking hard for me. I never heard a vice president come up, give their speech, be like, oh yeah, that was pretty simple, no big deal, thanks guys. It is going to be hard. It is going to be a struggle. It's supposed to be a struggle. So stop nagging out about the fucking excuses and the problems, Get excited about fixing it. So we need more of you up here. We're going to build something fucking beautiful and amazing and unbelievable over the next few years. And we need more partners. That's up to you. Yes?